Vancouver has got it all when it comes to natural beauty, but are there sports venues equally beautiful? Let's check out the stadiums and arenas of Vancouver, Canada. Nat Bailey Stadium. This place does actually have an extended commercial name, but Rogers was already mentioned too much in the Toronto video, so I won't mention that the full title is Rogers Field at Nat Bailey Stadium. It's home to the Vancouver Canadians, who are a minor league affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. It is a classic old school minor league ballpark, which is good in some ways and bad in others. For instance, the wooden roof looks kinda nice from underneath, but it's held up by pillars that slightly obstruct some spectators' view. Speaking of the view, don't be fooled by that heavily wooded backdrop. This is not situated in the countryside. That's Vancouver's Queen Elizabeth Park. Weirdly, there is a Queen's Park in Vancouver that also has a ballpark within it, but that doesn't meet the capacity cutoff. Back at Queen Elizabeth Park is Hillcrest Centre, which is primarily known as a curling rink. It hosted the curling at the 2010 Winter Olympics. However, after the games, the capacity was downsized significantly, so it too doesn't meet the cutoff, but I thought it was worth a mention. Thunderbird Stadium. It might not be the same as it is down in the southern United States, but college football is a thing in Canada as well. Most of the capacity of this stadium is coming from the surrounding earth embankment, although the one and only grandstand is kind of impressive. Most notably the concrete towers supporting the roof. They all have a Thunderbird statue sitting atop them. Over on the other side is some impressive landscaping and gardening. Due to the stadium's slightly ovular shape, it has in the past been used for Australian rules football, and is the part-time home of the Vancouver Cougars of the Australian Football League Canada. I wonder if there are more people on the field than in the stands at those games. College hockey is unsurprisingly a bigger deal in the land of ice hockey, and Doug Mitchell Thunderbird Sports Centre is a reflection of that. It was actually built on top of, or around, a pre-existing ice hockey arena that opened way back in 1963. When it comes to ice hockey arenas, that's actually a somewhat common thing to do. This too was used at the Olympics, but a lot of the venues in the city were, so I'm just going to stop mentioning it. It seems like a pretty good venue, good enough for the Vancouver Canucks. They are one of the only NHL teams without their own dedicated practice facility, so they sometimes use this place. Speaking of place, BC Place is the biggest stadium in British Columbia. Originally it had an air-supported roof, or in other words an inflated dome, which were a thing for a while, but they seem to be plagued with issues and most have been replaced. This one in particular was replaced with a lightweight retractable roof, which is the largest of its kind in the world. The part that is actually retractable is made from a fabric-like material that is attached to cables. Not only is this roof more practical, but those masts holding up the roof make for a much more spectacular exterior. And the cables are also able to support the weight of a large center-hung video board. As you can see, there are also these retractable fabric shades that block off the top tier of seating for when a smaller crowd is expected, which is pretty common as the two teams that play here don't average crowds of anywhere near the capacity. Those shades do make for a slightly more intimate atmosphere. Pacific Coliseum has been home to about half a dozen different hockey teams over the years. Most notably the Canucks, who played here from 1970 to 1995. Nowadays it doesn't have a permanent sporting tenant, which is why you've been seeing monster trucks. Good timing. Clearly it does still host some sports that don't involve oversized trucks. Rather than being on its way out though, the venue is still being updated. In fact, it received a much needed new video board just this year. Interestingly, this arena's same design was used in Edmonton. However, that one will be demolished next year. The Canucks moved to Rogers Arena. It's not that uncommon for an arena to have an attached hotel, but this is actually an apartment tower, one that is presumably occupied by a disproportionate amount of hockey fans. It does sound like an ideal place to live, however, there's also a Costco just across the road. So you will inevitably become obese within a few months of moving in. If you already are obese, well, things get morbid. Rogers Arena is nicknamed the Garage. because it was originally named after General Motors. But as we've seen before, Roger always gets the last laugh. Roger has a strange laugh. This place is currently undergoing the second phase of a multi-phase renovation as we speak. That will include a new center-hung video board, amongst other things. I suppose I should mention that this arena did host the Vancouver Grizzlies of the NBA since it opened in 1995, until they moved to Memphis in 2001. Memphis doesn't even have grizzly bears, unlike in Vancouver where 1 in 7 people have a grizzly bear for a pet. It's true, look it up. Swangard Stadium. This place is named after not an athlete or a politician, but Erwin Swangard, a journalist, who raised $1 million for its construction back in the day. It might seem modest, but it's actually one of the most important soccer grounds in British Columbia. Granted, that's not the same as being one of the most important football grounds in Britain or Colombia, but ever since its first year of operation, the stadium's been home to several soccer clubs, including the Whitecaps themselves. Well, the previous iteration of the Whitecaps, that played in the lower leagues of North American soccer. But the biggest event to ever take place at this ground was nothing to do with soccer. It was of course the inaugural Canadian Quidditch Championships back in 2015. Swangardium Leviosa.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Shut the up, Hermione, you filthy mudblood. And those were the stadiums in Vancouver. Thanks for watching, have a good one.